in a world ruled by the visible, where outcomes determine the worth of dreams, and the noise of the external drowns out the inner voice, there exists a silent power, ancient and nearly forgotten, a power that cannot be bought or inherited, but transforms everything it touches. That power is the word, not just any word, not the kind tossed carelessly into daily chatter. We're speaking of the conscious, intentional, purpose-driven word, the word that creates worlds, bends realities, and aligns the soul with its highest calling. Inspired by the timeless teachings of the great Emmet Fox, this text is not just something you listen to. It's an awakening, a deep call to remember that every decree spoken with faith is a seed planted in the soil of destiny, and that the true gold, the kind that never rusts or fades, is found in what we speak, think, and believe. Prepare for a journey where limits dissolve, spiritual laws are unveiled, and the steering wheel of your life is returned to your hands. Because when you decree with wisdom, the universe responds with precision. And when your word aligns with truth, destiny bows to you. This is not a book to hear, it is a book to transform you. Welcome to Decree and Destiny. The gold is in your voice, the change begins now. There is a gold that does not melt in fire nor is locked away in vaults. There is a gold that does not need to be extracted from the depths of the earth, because it flows from the very heart of man. That true, incorruptible, eternal gold is the word. For centuries, men have dug through mountains, crossed oceans, and sold their consciences in search of a little gold. But very few have learned that a word spoken with spiritual understanding holds more creative power than any mine in South Africa or any bar hidden in the basements of Fort Knox. Gold may buy you a house, but the word can give you a home. Gold may pay for medicine, but the word can restore your health. Gold may open doors in the world, but the word can open the kingdom of heaven within you. I have spoken these words from the pulpit many times. Everything you think, everything you say, everything you believe with intensity becomes your experience. This is not a metaphor. It is not a suggestion. It is a law as precise as gravity, the law of mentalism. And under that law, the spoken word, the word affirmed, envisioned, declared, is the instrument that shapes your world. This book you now hold in your hands is not a mystical treatise or a collection of pretty phrases. It is a living spiritual tool, like a burning torch. Each word has been written from the awareness of the inner Christ, and each line carries the purpose of freeing you from error, fear, and mental slavery. I have not come to entertain you. I have come to remind you of who you are and to teach you, step by step, how to use your word just as Jesus did, not to describe your problem, but to transform it. Do you remember what God did first in Genesis? He did not organize an army, dictate a law, or carve a statue. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That first word was not a noise nor a symbol, it was an act of creation. You too can say, "Let there be light," and there will be light in your life. But for that, you must understand what it means to speak from the Spirit. You must train your mind. You must recover reverence for language. You must learn to decree. In the following chapters, you and I will enter together into the secret temple of the Word. You don't need robes or rituals, just a willing mind, an open heart, and the simple faith of a child who still believes that when you speak with God, something changes. Because something does change. Because everything changes. Because the Word is God in action. Here you will not only learn why your word is gold, but how to purify it, how to strengthen it, how to charge it with spirit, how to use it to bless, to heal, to build. You will learn to speak again. You will learn to be silent when needed. You will learn to pray with authority. You will learn to declare the invisible as if it were already visible. And then what many call miracles will happen, though they are really nothing more than the natural manifestation of the law. The word is the tool of the inner Christ. The true gold is not in banks, it is in your mouth, in your mind, and in your heart. Are you ready to discover it? Then let us move forward together. The kingdom of God begins with a decree, and you are about to speak your first one. True gold is in the word. Based on the teachings of Emmet Fox, we've noticed that over 80% of those who visit our channel aren't subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Word that Creates and the Word that Destroys. Every human experience, without exception, is the result of a word. Not necessarily a word spoken aloud, but a word formulated in the silent laboratory of thought. Nothing appears in your life that has not first been spoken in the heart of your consciousness, just as nothing was created in the universe without God first declaring it in the Spirit. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is not a poetic phrase, it is the highest metaphysical definition of the creative process, and just as it was in the beginning, so it is now. For the Word, that intelligible energy born of thought, has not lost its power. It remains the channel through which the invisible becomes visible, the eternal becomes temporal, the abstract becomes matter. And you, made in the image and likeness of God, share in that same creative capacity. Every word you speak is a seed. Every idea you hold is a silent command that life obeys. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly decreeing. This is the central principle of the mental law. What you hold in your mind manifests in your world. There is no luck, no chance, no exceptions. What you call coincidence is simply the name you give to a mental cause you are unaware of planting. This is why some people fail repeatedly despite great effort, while others, with no apparent merit, prosper and enjoy health and joy. It's not about visible merit, but hidden decrees. Not about words that are heard, but about words that are believed. So what then is the word that destroys? It is every affirmation of error. It is every declaration born of fear, guilt, resentment, envy, or hatred. It is every phrase that denies the truth of God. When someone says, "I can't," "There's no way out," "I'm going to get sick," "This always happens to me," they are planting destructive decrees, and these grow just as effectively as decrees of faith. The law does not distinguish between good and bad. The law obeys. The law fulfills. It is like the earth. It bears fruit according to the seed planted. It does not judge the seed. It simply develops it. When you learn this, you stop speaking carelessly. You stop complaining, cursing, repeating phrases of ruin, illness, or failure, because you understand that every word has consequences. What you call reality today was a thought yesterday. What you fear today, you are attracting without realizing it. And what you bless today multiplies with power. In the Bible, the Word is not only the beginning of creation, it is Christ Himself. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. The Word, when it is embodied in human consciousness, becomes salvation. But likewise, when man uses his word to deny the truth, that word becomes incarnate as problems, lack, and conflict. The same instrument that can set you free can also enslave you, not because its nature changes, but because the use you give it determines its direction. Consider this carefully. When you obsessively think about a difficulty, you are feeding it with your mental word. You are giving it shape, form, duration. When you share your problem with 10 people, you multiply it tenfold. When you join others in conversations of fear or criticism, you are activating a destructive power that will return to you with interest. And I don't say this as a moral threat, but as a natural law. The word has no morality, it has potency. That's why Jesus said, "By your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." He wasn't speaking of a human court, but of the law of the word. Your own word is your judge, your seed, your mirror. What you decree today with emotional force will be what you live tomorrow. And if that frightens you, remember, it is also your salvation. Because the same word that can destroy can also lift you up. What brought you down yesterday can now raise you up. You might say, "But I'm not a powerful person. My words have no force." That is a mistake. Every human being is powerful because every human being thinks and speaks. Perhaps you haven't seen immediate results because your decrees are contradictory. One day you say, "I am healthy," and the next you say, "This is killing me." One day you affirm, "God provides for me," and then you sigh, "There's no work. Everything is so hard." And so your mind receives conflicting orders, and since it cannot serve two masters, it suspends the manifestation. The universe waits for you to speak clearly and, more importantly, persistently. For a word spoken without conviction moves nothing, but a word charged with faith moves mountains. This is why the ancient sages did not speak in vain. This is why silence was considered sacred, because the one who remains silent is forming the word they will later speak with authority, and the one who speaks from the Spirit transforms the world. When you understand this, your mouth becomes an altar, your mind a temple, your words a prayer. And every time you speak, you make a choice to create or destroy, to lift up or tear down, to bless or to condemn. And no one can speak for you because no one has your word. No one can decree your life. You do it at every moment, so pause and observe. What are you saying? What are you repeating? What are you declaring as truth in your life, in your family, in your body, in your finances? Don't say you didn't know. Now you know. You have learned that the word is power. And if until now you've used that power against yourself, it's time to redeem it. It's time to speak again. Do not be afraid. It doesn't matter how many wrong decrees you've spoken. The word of the inner Christ is stronger. One single word spoken in faith can cancel years of error. One single affirmation charged with God can open paths where once there was only desert. Let the weak say, I am strong, and that is the command. Do not describe your weakness, declare your strength. Do not explain your problem, decree your solution. The word is in you and you are ready to use it. Chapter 2. The vibration and substance of words. Every word is vibration. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a law. When a person speaks, they emit a wave. That wave travels through the invisible field of thought, moves through the levels of consciousness, touches the external world, and returns transformed into experience. Every word vibrates, and every vibration produces form. Whoever understands this ceases to see language as a passive tool and begins to recognize it as an active, perpetual, and infallible creative agent. From the moment a child babbles their first sound, they are vibrating their world. The problem is that no one teaches us the sacred nature of language. We use words like someone throwing stones into the wind, believing there will be no consequence. But every word remains. Every word leaves a mark, and that mark is imprinted first in the subconscious and then in matter. The body receives the word. The mind digests it. The environment reflects it. And so, without realizing it, we create our world as an echo of what we vibrate. When you say, I'm exhausted, you are not merely describing a physical state. You are launching a vibratory command that will affect your cells, your breathing, your nervous system, your vitality. When you repeat, I can't take it anymore, you are lowering the frequency of your entire mental field, and that frequency attracts like a magnet people, news, circumstances, and decisions that match the tone of that word. The word is not a decoration, it is a law of frequency. Every phrase has its charge, its field, its level. You don't need to shout to make a decree. You don't even need to speak aloud. The most powerful word is the one spoken with full conviction, even in silence. Just thinking this is going to go wrong is enough for the vibration of that idea to settle in the subconscious and begin its formative work. The subconscious is a faithful, obedient, and blind servant. It does not reason. It does not argue. It only acts. It takes every word as an order and begins to work towards its fulfillment. That's why what most determines your life is not what you do, but what you think and say repeatedly. Here enters the mechanics of repetition. Any idea held frequently becomes a habit, and every mental habit tends to solidify into form. Just as a constant drop pierces stone, so a constant word pierces the structure of your life and reshapes it. Someone who repeats 10 times a day, I never have any luck, is building a destiny of frustration. Someone who affirms, I always get sick in winter, is programming their biology. Someone who exclaims, there's no money, is unknowingly blocking their own provision. These repetitions are not harmless. They are not just ways of speaking. They are unconscious decrees, contracts the soul signs without reading the fine print. And the most serious part is that Many of them are passed down from generation to generation. Children repeat their parents' phrases, not knowing they are also inheriting their limitations. Entire families speak a defeated language. Entire communities reinforce scarcity, violence, or suffering with the way they speak. The power of misused words doesn't lie in insults or blasphemy. It lies in the unconscious repetition of false affirmations that seem true by force of habit. A woman who says every day, "My husband is useless," is not only wounding him with her tongue, she is contributing to making him so. A teacher who says, "This student is dumb," is not only committing an injustice, they are sending out a vibration that child will absorb as a self-image. A boss who shouts, "This team is a disaster," is sowing disorganization in the company, even if their intention is to improve it. Words do not respond to intentions, they obey vibrational content. The good news is that this process also works in reverse. A word of faith repeated can elevate consciousness. A well-formulated decree can undo years of error. An affirmation spoken with persistence and love can cleanse the mind, the body, the home. The universe responds to the strongest, clearest, and most sustained vibration. Therefore, if until now you have sown words of fear, you can now sow words of power. If your word has been weak, begin today to strengthen it. If you have spoken thoughtlessly, begin today to decree with wisdom. It all begins with internal language. Don't expect to change your world speaking the same way. Don't expect to heal your body saying the same things. Don't expect peace if you keep repeating war. Let silence be your training and the word your tool. It's time to purify your speech, not to please God as a judge, but to unite with God as principle. When you speak with truth, God speaks with you. And when God speaks, things change. In the coming days, I invite you to observe your language. Listen to yourself as someone listening to music. Detect the phrases that lower your energy. Replace them with words that are clean, strong, and full of truth. Do not speak just to speak, speak to create. Each time you speak, remember what I say is vibrating, and it will vibrate within me. It will vibrate outside of me, and it will return to me multiplied. That is the law, and now you are no longer ignorant of it. Exercise 1, verbal cleansing and mental reconstruction. Decree. For 21 days, repeat every morning and evening the following phrases, either aloud or silently, with the greatest conviction you can. If a word feels hard to believe, repeat it even more. These affirmations are not wishes, they are commands to the subconscious. Do not question them. Let them act. I am the master of my word, and my word builds my world. Every phrase I speak vibrates with the power of God. Today I choose to speak with clarity, with love, and with power. Everything that comes out of my mouth blesses, cleanses, and uplifts. I now cancel every word of fear, scarcity, or illness I've spoken in the past. My word is health. My word is abundance. My word is peace. From now on, my word is the instrument of the inner Christ. I decree only what I desire to live. My word creates harmony where there once was conflict. Every word of mine is a seed of good that blossoms in my life. Repeat this exercise with discipline. Write it by hand if you can. Read it before speaking to someone important. Memorize it. Make it your shield and your sword, and you will see with your own eyes how your world changes when you change your vibration. Chapter 3. The decree and its hidden spiritual power. To speak is to emit articulated sounds. To decree is to invoke the law. The difference between speaking and decreeing is the same as the difference between noise and power. Every human being speaks, but very few decree. Everyone says things, but only those who understand the nature of the Spirit can utter a word that transforms reality. A decree is not a wish, not a request, not a description. A decree is a statement of truth, spoken from spiritual knowledge, with authority, with certainty, and with purpose. The decree does not arise from the ego's whims, but from alignment with the inner Christ. It is not about imposing your will on the world, but about harmonizing your thought with the will of God, which is always health, freedom, abundance, order, peace, and good. When Jesus said, "Rise and walk," he was not begging God for a miracle. He was pronouncing a decree. He knew that the law obeys the word of the Christ. He knew that the body, time, illness, and external conditions were only temporary manifestations that could be transformed by the word, and that is why he spoke with authority. He did not shout, he did not repeat, he did not explain. He simply said, "Be clean," and it was so. "Go in peace," and peace came. "Let there be light," and light appeared. This power was not reserved for Jesus alone. He himself said, "Whoever believes in me, the works I do, he shall do also, and even greater works shall he do." What does this mean? That the power of the decree is not a privilege for a few enlightened beings, but the natural inheritance of all who understand how the law of God operates. And this is the key. The decree works when it is issued from spiritual understanding, not from emotional desperation. It is not enough to say beautiful words if your inner self vibrates with fear. It is not enough to repeat positive phrases if deep down you don't believe what you say. A decree is effective when your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your faith move in the same direction, like three strands of a cord that does not break. Many ask why their affirmations don't work. The answer is simple. They are not decreeing. They are just repeating. And they do it with doubt, with tension, with haste. A true decree is born from inner silence. It is spoken from the center of faith, not from anxiety. It is like a precise shot, not a vague murmur. That is why, before you decree, you must quiet yourself. You must recognize the presence of God within you. You must feel that your word is not your own, but of the one principle living in and through you. When you decree in this way, results can be immediate, because a well-formed decree cuts through error like a sword. It can erase years of limitation. It can reverse a situation that seemed irreversible. It can open a door where there was once only a wall, because the decree does not act on appearances, it acts on the cause. And when the cause changes, the effect naturally follows. But this requires training. A decree is not magic, not a spell. It is a spiritual tool that must be used responsibly. If you decree one thing today and cancel it tomorrow, you will see no results. If you decree with words but contradict yourself with your emotions, you will see no results. If you decree from pride, trying to dominate others or gain personal advantage, you will also see no results. Because the law does not obey the ego, it only responds to spirit. A true decree is simple, clear, specific, affirmative, and brief. It needs no embellishments, no explanations, no justifications. It only needs faith. A quiet faith, without strain. Like someone who switches on the light and knows the lamp will shine, like someone who plants a seed and trusts the earth to do its work, so must your decree be. Let us look at some examples from Scripture. When God says in Genesis, "Let there be light," he is demonstrating the essence of the decree. He does not say, "Could you please appear?" He does not say, "I hope it might happen." He says, "Let there be," and it is so, because that is how the principle works. The word precedes the form. The word comes first, then the manifestation. When Jesus meets the paralytic, he does not ask how long he has been that way, nor does he explain the benefits of faith. He simply says, "Rise, take up your mat, and walk." That is a perfect decree. Direct, active, positive, and clear. It leaves no room for doubt, includes no conditions, offers no alternatives. It simply declares what must be. And in the book of Isaiah we read, "So shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but shall accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it." This is the promise of every decree issued from Christ consciousness. It will not return void. It will not fail. It will not be lost, because the true word has a mission, and it fulfills that mission. And you can do the same. You can decree over your body, "My body is a temple of the Spirit. Every cell obeys divine order." You can decree over your finances, "God is my source. I lack nothing." You can decree over a difficult relationship, "I see the Christ in you, and only good can flow between us." You can decree over fear, "Faith in God dissolves all shadow." You are not lying. You are affirming a higher truth. You are lifting the vibration. You are reminding the universe of its original design, and the universe responds. It always responds, sometimes quickly, sometimes with apparent delay. But it always responds because the law listens. The law responds to the decree. The law fulfills, not because you have human power, but because you have aligned your word with divine power. So train your speech. Speak less, but decree more. Watch your words. Do not use your tongue to describe what you do not want. Use your mouth as a sacred instrument. Be like the prophet who says, "I have put my words in your mouth to plant and to build." Do not wait for the perfect moment to begin. Begin now. Declare the truth and let the power do its work. Because a decree well spoken can change everything. Chapter 4. Language as the mold of destiny. All human existence is structured upon language, and I do not mean the mother tongue, but the set of phrases, expressions, affirmations, and verbal formulas that each person adopts, almost always unknowingly, as the invisible mold of their destiny. The language you use not only reflects what you believe, it shapes what you live. It is a map of the world you are building. Wherever a phrase is repeated, a pattern is forged, and where there is a pattern, a manifestation is inevitable. Each time a man says, "This always happens to me," he is confessing his mold. Each time a woman exclaims, "There's never enough money," she is validating her internal programming. Everyday language, the one we use without thinking, contains the most accurate X-ray of the life we are cultivating. It does not matter what we say we desire. What we repeat is what we program. And the subconscious does not distinguish between a joke, an exaggeration, or a complaint. It simply obeys. You can observe a person for 1 hour and know by the tone and content of their speech whether their life is advancing or stagnant. One who speaks with gratitude has a mind open to good. One who constantly complains shrinks their mental field. One who declares their health affirms it. One who names their illness as mine traps it with words. There is no neutrality. Every word is a vote cast for order or for chaos. Language is the most persistent form of prayer. Not what you say in a temple on Sundays, but what you repeat daily as you cook, work, drive, or chat. Frequent "I can't" becomes a real barrier. "We'll see what happens" translates into an uncertain future. "I'm too old now" becomes a physical limitation. "Things always go wrong for me" materializes into a repetitive cycle. None of these decrees are accidental. They are the verbal signature of the subconscious. Do you want to know your likely destiny? Listen to your language. Not the one you use to sound good in front of others, but the one that emerges when you are alone, frustrated, tired, or reactive. That is where hidden programming manifests, and that is where transformation must begin. Because you can only change your life if you first change the mold that sustains it. And that mold is made of words. Health, for example, responds to precise vocabulary. One who constantly names ailments, medicines, and discomforts, even if done casually, vibrates at a frequency that keeps those symptoms active. On the other hand, one who affirms, "My body is renewed every day, I'm full of life," begins to sow a different energy, a new direction. At first, they might not believe it, but repetition transforms belief, and belief transforms the body. The same goes for economy. There's never enough. Life is hard. Everything goes up and nothing comes in. These are destructive formulas that repel provision. They are reversed magnets. In contrast, one who says, "God is my source, good flows to me constantly," is opening channels. Not because the words are magic, but because those words modify the mental field, and that field modifies the experience. And in human relationships, language is decisive. If you constantly label a person as toxic, you are fixing that quality in your perception, and from there, you will not be able to create peace. If you define your partner as a burden, that word will weigh down the relationship. But if you learn to say, "I bless the good in you," even if the other has not yet shown it, you begin to attract their better self. Because all language is a vibrational invitation. It attracts what it names. The great mistake many make is believing their language is a consequence of their life, when in fact it is the cause. They say, "I talk like this because I'm going through a hard time." No, you're going through a hard time because you talk like this. The mind forms habit. The habit forms thought. The thought forms language, and the language forms destiny. It is a precise chain. If you want to change your destiny, start with your words, change your language, and the whole chain will begin to shift. This doesn't mean you must speak like a perfect orator. It means you must elevate the vibrational quality of your words. Speak with faith, not with fear. Speak with truth, not resignation. Speak with clarity, not ambiguity. Use your tongue like a chisel that sculpts your path. And if you don't know what to say, stay silent. Conscious silence is a higher form of language because one who keeps silence with wisdom prepares the ground for a higher word. That is why now it is necessary to train your ear, not to listen to others, but to listen to yourself. Record your daily language. Examine the words you use most often. Detect the phrases you repeat without thinking. Identify the decrees you're affirming as destiny and replace them not with anger, not with guilt, but with awareness, with decision, with mastery. Because if you don't shape your language will shape you. Exercise 2, observing daily language and practicing creative silence. Part 1, language log. For 7 days, carry with you a notebook or small journal. Each time you notice you've spoken a negative, limiting, or defeatist phrase, write it down without judging yourself. Phrases like, "This is a problem," "I can't deal with this," "I'm fed up," and "This never changes," and "This always happens to me." At the end of each day, review your list and become aware of repetitions. Observe what type of language predominates. Is it tied to fear, to lack, to criticism? Only through observation can correction begin. Part 2, creative silence. Each morning before beginning your activities, set aside 5 minutes of total silence. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and do not focus on your worries. Instead, focus on God. Do not try to imagine Him. Simply repeat mentally a phrase like, "God is order," "God is harmony," "God is life," "God is here." Remain in that affirmative silence. Do not speak. Do not ask. Do not explain. Just hold an elevated vibration. This silence is fertile ground where your word will later gain greater power. Practice this every day, because your language is not transformed by a single reading, but by constant practice. And if you persevere, there will come a day when your very words will begin to heal you, lift you, and prosper you. That day, language will no longer reflect your past. It will become the tool of your new destiny. Chapter 5. The Incarnated Word. What you speak inhabits you. Every word you pronounce does not only vibrate in the external world, it also imprints itself, settles, and crystallizes within your inner world. There is no word that leaves you without leaving a trace in you. What you speak not only causes a reaction in your environment, it brings about a transformation in your character. Because the word is not simply a tool to create outwardly, it is also a seed planted within. And once planted, it begins to grow in the form of temperament, belief, emotional response, and personality. What you repeatedly affirm becomes part of your invisible structure. If every day you say, "I'm tired of this life," that phrase doesn't just bring about experiences of exhaustion, it turns you into someone tired of living. If you insist on saying, "Nothing ever turns out the way I want," you're shaping a consciousness of frustration, and you won't be able to react to life in any other way because you will already be accustomed to it. You will have become what you declared. This explains why two people faced with the same situation react so differently. It's not the situation that sets them apart, it's the word that lives within them. One sees opportunity where the other sees a problem. One rises and acts while the other freezes. And this doesn't depend on intellect, experience, or history. It depends on the language with which they've built their consciousness. Your character is not something you inherited. It is something you've built word by word. Your way of thinking, your way of reacting, your level of faith or fear, these are all the result of thousands of words that you yourself have planted in your mind. Some consciously, others without realizing, but all with cumulative effect. That is why you are who you are today. Not because of what happened to you, but because of what you said about what happened to you. Understanding this is a revelation, because if what you speak inhabits you, then you can choose what you want to live inside you. You can create a new consciousness within, freer, more loving, braver, wiser. You just need to begin speaking differently. Not superficially, but from within, with intention, with direction, with persistence, like someone rebuilding their house word by word. The Bible is filled with examples where a single word transforms a person's entire destiny. When Jesus sees the leper and says, "Be clean," he is not making a symbolic gesture. He is pronouncing a decree that acts on the body, but also on the soul. Because in being declared clean, that man no longer just appears healed. He feels worthy of it. The word heals him physically, but also restores his value, his humanity, his right to belong. The same happens with the woman caught in adultery. Jesus doesn't throw a condemnation or deliver a sermon. He simply says, "Go and sin no more." Those few words redeem her, separate her from her past, and give her permission to begin again. There is no punishment. There is a word that sets her free. And in receiving it, she can no longer remain the same because the word enters, and when it enters, it transforms. You can speak to yourself in such a way that upon hearing yourself, your soul rises. You can say, "I am a child of God. I am free. I am healthy. I am guided by divine intelligence." And in repeating it with conviction, you not only create a new reality in your outer world, you create a new version of yourself. A version that thinks differently, feels differently, acts differently, because every word you speak is a command that your consciousness obeys and shapes. This principle also explains why destructive language causes such harm, even when it doesn't lead to actions. An insult, a constant complaint, a curse uttered in anger, they don't just affect others, they contaminate you. Because you are the first recipient of your own word. You think it, you feel it, you imprint it onto your mental structure. And if you repeat hate, hate will inhabit you. If you repeat fear, fear will inhabit you. If you repeat defeat, you will live defeated, even if no one has ever beaten you. The great mistake many make is believing their words are just fleeting sounds. But the truth is this: every spoken word is stored in your consciousness as a living force. It doesn't disappear, it doesn't erase, and it is stored, and over time it manifests. That's why wisdom isn't just about choosing the right words for others, but especially choosing the right words for yourself. The real question isn't, what do I want to happen out there? The real question is, what do I want to dwell within me? Because what dwells in you is what you ultimately project, and what you project is what you live. You can't sow words of doubt and expect certainty. You can't speak of ruin and expect prosperity. You can't affirm illness and ask for health. You can't declare war and expect peace. The law is precise. The word you speak enters you, and from within bears fruit. Now you know. To speak is to sow yourself, and to speak is to define yourself. To speak is to incarnate. Do you want to be a free, healthy, luminous being? Speak as such. Do you want to be a new consciousness? Declare your renewal. Do you want to be inhabited by goodness? Sow words of goodness and make every phrase an act of love. Make every word a building stone, and then the word will become flesh in you, not as an idea, not as doctrine, but as a living force that builds from within. And when that happens, you will no longer speak from your humanity. You will speak from your divinity. Chapter 6. The fool's gold of empty words. There are words that shine but do not illuminate. Words that seduce but do not sustain. Words that sound good but lack substance. They are like fool's gold, gleaming on the outside, hollow within. They do not create, they do not transform, they do not heal, they merely distract. This is the language of the superficial world, of the ego that learned to speak without thinking, to promise without fulfilling, to praise without feeling, to manipulate without loving. This language has become common currency, and the human soul repeats it without realizing that by doing so, it is squandering its greatest treasure, the word as an instrument of the Spirit. The word was given to humanity to create from truth, not to simulate appearances. Every word not born from the sincerity of the soul is a misuse of mental power. Hypocrisy, flattery with hidden motives, the so-called white lie, gossip disguised as concern. These are all ways of degrading language, and each time this happens, the word loses its potency, not because the law has changed, but because the channel transmitting it becomes polluted. The soul loses authority when it grows accustomed to speaking without integrity. Jesus had no double language. He said yes when it was yes, and no when it was no. He didn't beat around the bush, didn't seek to please everyone, didn't flatter, didn't dramatize, didn't bargain with the truth. His word was clear, direct, pure, and for that very reason, powerful. Because power doesn't lie in syllables, but in the coherence between what is said and what is believed. When that coherence breaks, the word becomes empty. When it is maintained, the word becomes filled with spirit. Today we live surrounded by hollow words, promises never fulfilled, speeches that sound correct but lack truth, opinions thrown into the wind without foundation, without reflection, without love. Even in spiritual circles, many repeat lofty phrases without understanding them, without feeling them, without living them. And those words, however brilliant they may seem, bear no fruit, because the word does not act by form, but by the consciousness that backs it. Flattery is one of the subtlest forms of falsehood. It is not love, it is manipulation dressed as kindness. One flatters to gain something, to influence, to conceal, but the soul that receives such praise senses it as hollow, as unreal. It does not nourish, it does not edify, it merely lulls. In contrast, a true word spoken with clean intent can lift a man from the ground, can heal a heart, can awaken the sleeping Christ within someone. This is the kind of word we must learn to use. A lie, no matter how small, corrupts the instrument. It not only harms the other, it weakens the one who speaks it, because to lie is to act against the principle, and when one acts against the principle, one breaks the connection to the source. No one can declare with power if their tongue is accustomed to lying. Even if they repeat powerful affirmations, they will have no effect, because the subconscious no longer trusts that word. And if your own mind doesn't believe your word, how can you expect the universe to obey it? Gossip is another form of verbal corruption. It disguises itself as concern, as innocent conversation, but its essence is judgment. And where there is judgment, there is no love. And where there is no love, the word loses power. The gossip spreads a murky mental atmosphere that will eventually envelop them. Because everything you say about another becomes energy that returns to you. What you declare about others, you are also imprinting onto yourself. If you speak ill, you become poisoned. If you speak well, you are lifted. It is that simple. The solution is not cowardly silence or superficial self-censorship. The solution is a re-education of language grounded in truth. Speak only when what you have to say is born of love or wisdom. Speak to edify, not to wound. Speak to heal, not to control. Speak as one who knows their mouth is an altar of the Spirit. And how is this achieved? By observing, correcting, forgiving past mistakes, and above all, by consecrating the word each morning to the service of the inner Christ. For the tongue that is offered in service to God becomes an instrument of blessing. And when this happens, you no longer need adorned words or glittering phrases. Your word, by the sole virtue of being true, becomes powerful. A prayer of consecration of the word. Upon waking each morning, recite this prayer aloud or in deep silence with firm intention. It is an act of surrender, an affirmation of spiritual dominion, a cleansing, a consecration. Lord, today I offer you my word. May every phrase that flows from my mouth be filled with truth, love, and light. Cleanse my tongue of all falsehood, all judgment, all fear. May I not speak out of habit or the desire to impress, but by the command of the Spirit who lives in me. May my words uplift, never destroy. May they bless, never condemn. May they serve, never manipulate. May every spoken word echo your eternal word. May my mouth become a channel of the inner Christ. May my silence be fertile and my speech sacred. I consecrate my word to truth, and from today every word I speak shall be a seed of goodness. Amen. Say this prayer with reverence, not as a ritual but as an act of will. and observe how day by day your word transforms, and as it transforms, it also transforms your world. Chapter 7. The word as a bridge between desire and manifestation. Everything you long for already exists on the spiritual plane. Every desire that is legitimate, that is, every desire aligned with the good, has already been conceived in the mind of God. But for that desire to become visible experience, it must cross a bridge. That bridge is the Word. Without the Word, there is no passage from the invisible to the visible. The Word is the channel through which the divine idea takes form. This process is not instant or magical, but it is precise. It follows an order that never fails: thought, word, emotion, manifestation. First, an idea arises within you, a vision, a noble need. Then you give it verbal form. You name it, declare it, affirm it. That word, if sustained, generates an emotion, a specific vibration that energizes your field. And when that emotion is sufficiently intense and persistent, it is projected into the world as concrete form. Many people think that desiring is enough. It is not. To desire without declaring is like planting a seed without watering it. A strong thought is not sufficient. That thought must be affirmed, spoken aloud or within, because in speaking it you confirm it. Authorize it to exist in your mental field. The word is the key that activates desire, but not just any word will do. The desire must be affirmed with faith, and faith is not an emotion. Faith is certainty. It is knowing that it is already done, that the good you seek is not in the future but in the invisible realm, waiting to be manifested. That is why Jesus said, "When you pray, believe that you have already received it and it will be yours." He didn't say, "Wait and see if it happens." He said, "Declare it as already done." That is the secret, to speak as if it already is and to uphold that word. This is the opposite of passive waiting. Many say, "I'm waiting for God to bless me." But you have already been blessed. Well-being is available. What's missing is that you claim it in the right way, not with anxiety, pleading, or complaint, but with creative, firm, elevated, and consistent speech. The one who knows how to decree does not wait. He manifests. Let us look at the process in detail. First, the thought. This is where desire is born, but it must be a legitimate desire aligned with truth. Not a whim, not imitation, not escape, but a deep longing of your soul, coherent with your evolution, something that brings expansion, not conflict. If the desire meets these conditions, it is a sign the Spirit has planted it in you. Second, the word. This is where the desire begins to incarnate. The thought becomes the word. You name it, affirm it, declare it. But you must do so in the present tense, as a fact, not as a possibility. Don't say, "I wish I had peace." Say, "The peace of God dwells in me now." Don't say, "I hope for health." Say, "My body expresses perfect health." Here lies the key. The word must be present, positive, precise, and powerful. Third, the emotion. Your word activates a vibration. That vibration is what the universe responds to. If you speak with doubt, that's the emotion you emit. If you speak with certainty, the vibration is strong. Emotion is the fuel of the decree. It's not about feeling euphoric, but about feeling calm conviction, about trusting, knowing, letting go after declaring. That's the right emotion, an inner security that needs no external proof. Fourth, the manifestation. When the vibration is sustained and enough time has passed, it densifies, it becomes form. Sometimes it happens quickly, sometimes not, but not because the law fails, but because there are interferences, contradictory thoughts, old emotions, words that deny the decree. When you cleanse your field and uphold your word, the manifestation arrives. And it doesn't arrive by chance, it arrives because you spoke it into being. The problem is most people declare one thing and then contradict it. They say, "God is my supply," and moments later, "I don't know how I'm going to afford this." They say, "I'm healthy in Christ," and 5 minutes later, everything hurts. With such double speech, manifestation is impossible because the bridge must go in one direction only. You cannot advance if you lay one brick forward and the next one backward. Your word must be one, firm and unwavering. Only then will the desire cross into the visible plane. This principle also dismantles the idea that we must wait and see. No. In the spiritual realm, it's not about waiting, it's about activating. It's about firmly decreeing today what you desire to live and maintaining that decree until it manifests. It doesn't matter what appearances say. It doesn't matter what others think. You speak from truth, not illusion, and truth always manifests if it is sustained. True faith speaks. It doesn't sit silently hoping for miracles. It produces them through the word. Jesus didn't say, "Let's see if the blind man sees." He said, "Receive your sight." And it happened because he spoke from certainty, from Christ, from the consciousness of unity with the principle. You can do the same. If your desire is pure, if your word is clear, if your faith is steady, manifestation cannot fail. The next time you feel a noble desire, don't repress it. Examine it, affirm it, declare it, feel it as real, and then guard your word. Do not say anything that denies what you just declared. Make your language a bridge, not a trap. Do not repeat the old if you are creating the new. Use your word as an architect. Use its blueprint with precision, with patience, with vision. And you will see that little by little, your world begins to resemble what you have declared. Because that's how the law works. What you think, you speak. What you speak, you feel. What you feel, you manifest. And what you manifest becomes your life. Chapter 8, the word and the mental image, the creative pair. Every decree is a seed, but every seed needs a form, a structure, a soil in which to grow. That form is the mental image. If the word is the spark, the image is the shape that spark will take. If the word is the instruction, the image is the blueprint. If the word is the command, the image is the moldable substance. That is why every word spoken with power must be accompanied by a clear, congruent, vivid, and sustained image. Otherwise, the energy released by the word disperses, dilutes, contradicts itself, and cannot bear fruit. The word and the image are the creative pair in the mental plane, like spirit and matter, like seed and soil, like idea and form. One without the other is incomplete. The word without the image is sound lost in the wind. The image without the word is a vision without direction. Only when both elements unite in harmony with coherent emotion does the true creative power activate. Think of it this way. When you say, "I am prosperous," you are declaring a spiritual truth. But if, as you say it, your mind projects an image of lack, debt, or financial anxiety, then that word is swimming against the current. It is not enough to affirm it repeatedly. If there is no image to support that decree, the energy encounters an inner contradiction, and where there is contradiction, there can be no manifestation. The mental image is the mold into which the word is poured. It is the form the subconscious needs in order to translate an idea into reality. And that image must be clear, positive, present, and filled with constructive emotion. You must see what you are decreeing as if it were already happening. Do not imagine it as something far away, improbable, or idealized. Live it mentally as a fact that already is. This is how you operate on the level where experience is truly formed, the creative plane of consciousness. You do not need artistic skill to form mental images. We all do it daily, even if unconsciously. When you fear something, don't you see in your mind the scene of what you fear? When you complain, don't you mentally project the problem? You do it effortlessly but mistakenly. You can do the same with truth, consciously, deliberately, wisely. Suppose you desire to heal your body. It is not enough to say, "I am healthy in God." That is the seed. But you need to mentally see your body strong, agile, clean, and free of pain. You need to see yourself walking with energy, breathing with joy, living without limitation. And more importantly, you need to feel that image as real. Because feeling is the cement that binds word and image. It is what gives life to the mold. If you desire harmony in your relationships, it's not enough to repeat, "I am peace." You must form the image of yourself speaking with serenity, resolving with love, smiling with sincerity. You must see the other person as transformed by the light, not as they are now, but as they can become when you vibrate differently. You are not daydreaming. You are creating the mental mold where the word will find form. This is the mistake many make. They affirm powerful phrases, but at the same time sustain weak, confused, negative, or contradictory mental images. No construction can come from that. It's like trying to fill a broken vessel. That is why, before you decree, examine your inner images. What do you see when you affirm? Do you see yourself as whole, or as someone who wants to be, but is not yet? The subconscious does not respond to your phrases. It responds to the emotional image you hold behind the phrase. The Bible shows us this principle clearly. When Jesus feeds the multitude, he doesn't just say he will give them food. He sees the multiplication. He turns to the Father, blesses the bread, visualizes the abundance, and then acts. The image is so alive in him that matter obeys. The same happens when he says, "Rise and walk." It is not just a word. It is a word accompanied by vision. He sees the man standing before he is. That's why it happens. You must do the same. It is not about repeating soulless phrases. It is about building a complete mental equivalent, word and image and emotion, and then sustaining it. Not just for minutes, but as an attitude, as a permanent vibration, as a new inner mold that, once full, will overflow into the external world as circumstances, encounters, opportunities, healings, or solutions. This is the path of the inner Christ. It is not about waiting from lack. It is about speaking from fullness. It is not about imagining from doubt. It is about seeing from faith. Faith is not hoping for the invisible. Faith is seeing it before it becomes visible, and seeing it with such force that your entire being aligns with that vision. That is the power of the mental image backed by the word. You are the architect of your life. You have the word. You have the imagination. You have the emotion. Unite them and create. Exercise 3. Building a mental image supported by the word. For 7 days, dedicate 15 minutes daily to this complete exercise. Do not shorten it. Do not rush it. Do it with full presence. Step 1. Define a clear and elevated desire. It must be a legitimate desire, aligned with the good. Examples: health, inner peace, abundance, reconciliation. Step 2. Write a precise and positive affirmation. Examples: I am perfect health now, or God guides me clearly each day, or good flows to me in all the right ways. Step 3. Form a vivid mental image. Close your eyes. Visualize the result as if it were already happening. Use all your senses. If it's health, feel agile, smiling, full of energy. If it's peace, imagine your relaxed face, your calm breath. If it's abundance, visualize completed payments, open hands, flowing opportunities. Step 4. Feel the corresponding emotion. As you hold the image, feel joy, gratitude, and confidence. Don't just see, live that scene with emotional intensity. Step 5. Speak your affirmation out loud. Do it with firmness, with authority, as one who gives an order already being obeyed. Repeat the affirmation while maintaining the living image. Say it 3 times with a pause between each. Step 6. End in silence. Remain 2 minutes in stillness, allowing the vibration to settle in your mental field. Then continue your day. Do this daily at the same hour if possible, and do not speak anything afterward that contradicts the work done. Your word is law, your image is form, your emotion is fire, and what you create from there will, sooner or later, manifest. Chapter 9. How to pray with words that work. To pray is not to beg. To pray is not to plead with a distant God who, perhaps moved by our suffering, might decide to help us. That idea belongs to spiritual ignorance. God is not a tyrant to be persuaded, nor a judge to be appeased. God is principle. God is law. God is love. And love does not need to be stolen. It needs to be recognized. Therefore, prayer is not an act of begging, but an act of creation. It is the supreme way to align our thoughts with the divine mind, and thus to manifest into form what is already true in the spiritual realm. True prayer is not directed to an external God, but awakens the God within. It does not seek to change God, but to change the one who prays. It is not about altering the universe, but about aligning the mind of man with the eternal order that already exists. That is why the only prayer that works is the one that elevates consciousness, not the one that laments. To pray with understanding is to affirm what God has already decreed: goodness, life, health, wisdom, peace, abundance. Jesus gave us a perfect formula for this, the Lord's Prayer. It is not a prayer to recite mechanically, but a model of spiritual affirmations which, when understood, hold transformative power. Each phrase is a key, each expression is a hidden decree. Let us analyze it. Our Father who art in heaven. Here the divine parenthood and the universality of God are affirmed. It does not say my Father, but our Father, recognizing that every human being is a child of God, and thus we are all siblings. Who art in heaven means God dwells in the plane of higher consciousness. Heaven is your spiritual mind, not a place in space. This phrase establishes that God is within you, and you can access Him through conscious prayer. Hallowed be thy name. The name of God is His nature, His essential truth. To hallow it is to recognize it as absolute good, as the only real power. This phrase purifies the mind. The one who says it with faith separates themselves from fear, chaos, and ego. They are affirming, only God is real, all else is passing shadow. Thy kingdom come. We are not asking to go to the kingdom, but for the kingdom to come. Where? Here, now, into the mind of the one who prays. This is a statement of manifestation. The kingdom of God is perfect spiritual order, health, peace, provision, harmony. This phrase is a decree that calls that kingdom to express itself in the life of the one who prays. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Here we affirm that the will of God, which is always good, is to be fulfilled in the material plane just as it already is in the spiritual. This phrase dismantles every idea of divine punishment or suffering sent by God. God's will is not pain or lack. It is fullness, order, and love. This is an alignment between realms, a decree of manifestation from divine mind to daily experience. Give us this day our daily bread. This is not a request for accumulation, lavish wealth, or future security. It affirms that what is needed is available today. The bread symbolizes all provision: food, money, health, wisdom, opportunity. This phrase is a declaration of practical faith. Today I have what I need. God sustains me here and now. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. This is the law of forgiveness, a condition for mental liberation. Not because God withholds grace, but because resentment blocks manifestation. Only a heart that forgives can receive. This phrase is an affirmation of inner cleansing. Each time you say it sincerely, you release burdens and allow good to flow again. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This asks for protection, not from external enemies, but from the errors of our own minds. Temptation is to think with fear, to speak with ignorance, to act from ego. Evil is not a real force, it is the absence of spiritual awareness. This phrase is an affirmation of inner mastery. My mind is anchored in God. No illusion shall dominate me. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. This is a glorification of the principle. The final affirmation that all power belongs to God and what has been declared is already fulfilled. This analysis reveals the Lord's Prayer as a model of scientific prayer. It is not a litany, but a map, a series of decrees which, if understood and lived, align the one who prays with truth. Scientific prayer, therefore, is not repetition. It is conscious declaration, born of the understanding that the Word creates. It requires inner preparation. It is not automatic. It requires attention, focus, decision. And most of all, it requires faith. Not the kind of faith that waits for external miracles, but the kind that knows the miracle is the awakening of consciousness. So I invite you to pray differently, not from lack, but from fullness, not from desperation, but from dominion, not to persuade God, but to convince your own mind that God has already given. Change how you speak to Him. Use words that lift. Use phrases that affirm. Speak as one who knows. Pray as one who decrees. Because prayer is not supplication, it is mental creation empowered by spiritual truth. Chapter 10. Silence between words is also a word. Creation happens not only with what is spoken, but also with what is kept silent. The word is not just sound, it is also pause. It is an inner vibration. It is directed energy, even if it is not wrapped in syllables. That is why silence is not the absence of word, but a potential word. And when that silence is filled with faith, peace, awareness, and truth, it can hold more power than 1,000 phrases spoken in fear. The spiritual person does not speak much. They speak when they must, and they do so with mastery. But before speaking, they quiet themselves. Inner silence is the place where the mind aligns with the divine mind. It is there that the true decree is born, not in haste, not in reaction, not in emotional noise, but only in expectant silence, where the soul neither begs nor imagines, but waits in peace, hearing the inner voice. And that voice, even if it does not always have words, is the most precise guide. Jesus himself, before performing a miracle, withdrew, separated himself, went to the mountain, or looked silently towards heaven. He did not shout or repeat words. He simply contemplated the good in his mind, and from that center of stillness spoke a single phrase: "Be clean, arise, go in peace." A word spoken from silence is worth more than 1,000 spoken from confusion, because silence gives authority to the verb. But spiritual silence is not passivity. It is energy in reserve, accumulated power, contained faith, not as repression, but as aligned vibration. Just as the archer silently draws the bowstring before releasing the arrow, so the soul prepares in silence before speaking with power. There is no weakness in staying silent when there is no clarity. On the contrary, one who keeps silence to align their inner self is practicing the highest form of prayer. Today, many fear silence. They fill it with noise, empty words, unnecessary explanations. They believe that silence is surrender, but it is not. Silent mastery is an act of wisdom. It is the ground where the right word forms. It is the womb where the decree finds its best shape. Because every great verb is born from great silence, there are healing silences. When a soul suffers, sometimes it does not need advice or phrases. It just needs someone to accompany it in silence, but with full presence, with love vibrating in that muteness. That silence is not emptiness, it is containment, an invisible word. The child, calmed by the embrace of their mother, does not need her to speak. She is saying without saying. That is the verb in its purest form, conscious, vibratory presence. Silence also dissolves fear. When someone faces a difficult situation, their first impulse is to speak from fear. But if instead they keep inner silence, breathe, and affirm in their mind, "God is here," that moment of pause stops the reaction, dissolves anguish, and allows truth to emerge. Then, when they speak, it will be from the center, not from the shadow. Silence will have purified their word. Even in prayer, silence is fundamental. It is not enough to affirm phrases. There must be a moment of stillness where the soul receives. That moment is sacred. It is where the mind ceases to emit and begins to perceive, where human thought ends and divine inspiration begins. If you only pray with words, you will likely speak from your limited mind. But if after praying you keep expectant silence, you open space for the eternal Christ to speak to you. That is why learning to keep silence is as important as learning to decree, not to avoid conflicts, but to avoid mental errors, not to repress, but to refine. There are moments when the best prayer is silence, when faith is not demonstrated by speaking but by trusting without needing to speak. When the soul in silence declares with all its being, "I know God is working now, even though I do not yet see anything." This kind of silence is not emptiness. It is formless fullness, pure presence. And when that presence is established, then a single word spoken from there can move mountains. Decree 1, Decree of Inner Alignment. Use this brief decree whenever you feel doubt, fear, emotional pressure, or face a difficult decision. Do not say it anxiously. Stop, quiet your mind, breathe, and then declare in a firm voice without tension, God thinks in me, speaks in me, works in me. I am in perfect union with the divine mind now. Then hold a few seconds of silence. Do not wait for a sign, just remain. Feel the energy of the decree flowing through your being. Repeat if necessary, but without effort. What is said is said. The law has heard. Silence will now be your field of resonance. Remember, when your soul learns to speak from silence, it no longer needs to justify, convince, or insist. Speak little, but clearly. Keep silence, but with intention, because everything said without connection evaporates, and everything born from conscious silence manifests with certainty. Chapter 11. When the word becomes flesh in your life. Every word spoken with true faith is a spiritual seed. But if that seed is watered consistently, protected with mental vigilance, and affirmed without interruption, it eventually becomes incarnate. It becomes flesh, becomes body, becomes situation, encounter, health, abundance, liberation. Because the word does not float in the air. It seeks form, and when it finds in you a willing mental field, it transforms into lived experience. The word becomes flesh when what you declared long ago begins to manifest effortlessly, when the affirmation you repeated with faith, though it once seemed an illusion, starts to reflect in your environment, your body, your finances, your relationships, not as a stroke of luck, not as an accident, but as the rightful fruit of your sustained word. Then you understand that everything you live, you first spoke. I have seen lives completely transformed by the power of a word upheld with spiritual discipline. I have seen incurable patients rise again simply because they began declaring perfect health, and at the same time stop naming their illness. I have seen people drowning in financial ruin prosper when, instead of complaining, they started saying, God is my inexhaustible source of provision. They did not say it once. They said it every day with their soul. And so the word, drop by drop, shaped a new reality. One of the cases that most marked me was that of a simple woman, mother of 5 children, abandoned by her husband, without income, without education, without apparent hope. She came to me asking for help, and I gave her only one task. Never again say that you are alone. From now on, affirm every day, God is my company, my sustenance, and my perfect guide. She obeyed, not without effort. Her surroundings did not change immediately, but something inside her began to vibrate differently. Within months, a neighbor offered her work. Then another person helped her enroll her children in a free school. Over time, she not only stabilized, but began teaching other women how to organize their homes and became a sort of community counselor. She told me, I don't know how it happened, but since I stopped speaking my sadness, I started living another story. That is the incarnation of the word, because all power is in thoughts spoken with faith. It is not about pretending or parroting phrases. It is about feeling what you say, aligning with what you affirm, letting the word become habit, and the habit become vibration. Verbal discipline is not a burden. It is a conscious choice not to pollute your mental field with useless words. It does not mean speaking less. It means speaking from the center. You can transform any aspect of your life if you sustain a word aligned with the inner Christ. But you must be consistent. Affirming once a day is not enough if the rest of the time you speak from fear or complaint. You cannot sow wheat in the morning and weeds in the afternoon and expect a good harvest. What you affirm must be continuous, coherent, fertile. You must care for your word as one cares for the sacred fire in a temple, how to keep that vibration elevated with vigilance, self-observation, and immediate correction. If you catch yourself saying a negative phrase, cancel it softly and replace it. Do not blame yourself. Just correct. Say, no, that is not true. The truth is that God guides me now. Do this whenever necessary, and it will be especially necessary at first. But each correction is an act of mastery, each affirmation a seed, and every aligned word another stone in the building of your new life. It is also helpful to surround yourself with positive written phrases. Place decrees in visible places, in your home, on your desk, on your mirror. Make your environment a field of vibratory support. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply love. Replace old language with a new one, without fear of ridicule. Because the one who speaks from the soul does not seek approval. They seek transformation. Sooner or later, if you are faithful to your word, you will see everything start to move. Circumstances, people, paths, opportunities. Not because you convinced God, but because you convinced yourself. The word will have penetrated your mind, your body, your atmosphere. It will have become flesh in you, and from there, manifestation cannot resist. This is the purpose of all affirmative prayer, that the word does not stay on paper or on the lips, but becomes lived life. That the health you declare is seen in your body. That the peace you affirm is noticed in your dealings. That the abundance you proclaim manifests on your table. That the love you decree is incarnate in your relationships. Then you will not need to convince anyone. Your very presence will be testimony. Your very gaze will be word. Your very life will be the word made flesh. And so, without saying it, you will be preaching the power of God in you. Chapter 12. Teach your world to speak again. When you understand that your word creates your life, you are beginning to awaken. But when you understand that your word can also help others create a new life, you are ready to serve. The word is not a private power, it is a universal force. It was not given only so you can heal your body, organize your home, or multiply your provision. It was given so you can become a channel of collective transformation, a master of the word, a sower of a new way of speaking, one born from the inner Christ. Our world is sick with language. People speak from fear, from complaint, from criticism, from hopelessness. Everyday language is loaded with symbolic death. Phrases like, "I can't take it anymore," "This is lost, nobody changes, it's too late, it has always been this way." These are decrees sown daily, from every mouth, without awareness, and each of those decrees bears its fruit, not because people are bad, but because no one taught them how to speak again. You who have awakened to this truth have a mission, to be a living witness to the power of the word. Not by imposing your ideas, not by correcting with arrogance, not by preaching from judgment, but by speaking yourself from truth with such firmness, such serenity, such love, that others begin to notice something different in your way of expressing yourself and gradually start to ask you. And when that happens, you can teach them, not with theories, not with techniques, but with your example, with your vibration, with your own transformed language. A person who masters their word transforms the environment they enter, raising it, purifying it, awakening it, because the conscious word is contagious. It is like a flame that lights other flames. You can turn your home into a temple of the word, your table into an altar where only good things are declared, your conversation into a stream of light. And from there, little by little, the world's language begins to cleanse itself. Every time you choose not to respond with aggression, you are teaching to speak again. Every time you affirm health instead of repeating a diagnosis, you are teaching. Every time you bless the one who attacks you, you're reprogramming the collective verbal field. And you don't need great speeches. You just need to say what is right, good, useful, and above all, true. The edifying word is a spiritual service, to heal with your phrases, to console with your affirmations, to guide with your declarations. You don't need to be an orator or have studies or know many formulas. You only need to speak from your center, from your inner Christ, from the certainty that good already is, and that you can invoke it with your word in every situation. Imagine what the world would be like if all human beings used their words only to build, never to destroy, only to liberate, never to condemn, only to love, never to hurt. That is the kingdom of God manifested, a place, not a future event, but a collective frequency, a shared mental state where the word has been purified and from there, reality as well. The kingdom will not come by isolated decrees. It will come when you and I and others like us teach to speak again. First to ourselves, then to those around us, then to all who are willing. We do not force, we do not argue, we simply live the word. And by living it, it expands. And where it expands, the old language dies. And where the old language dies, the new earth begins to be born. You are part of this new birth. Your voice is an instrument. Your words are keys. Do not use them to repeat the old. Use them to announce the new. Do not say what fear says. Say what love says. And if you don't know what to say silence, because even silence vibrating in God is a healing word. Today the world needs your word more than ever. Do not be silent, but do not shout. Speak with intention. Speak with light. Speak as one who has understood that every phrase leaves a trace, and leave a trace of hope, wisdom, and peace. Thus, with every elevated word you speak, you will be teaching your world to speak again, and by doing so, you will be creating it anew. Prayer 2. Prayer to send the healing word. Use this prayer whenever you want to bless someone regardless of distance, for a loved one, a stranger, a community, a people, a nation. It is not your power that acts. It is the word as an agent of redemption pronounced from love. Eternal Christ in me, I send your word where there is pain. I send your light where there is shadow. I send your peace where there is confusion. May my word fly pure, without ego, without fear, without judgment. May it cross walls and heal hearts. May it bring comfort to the suffering, clarity to the doubting, strength to the falling. I do not impose, I bless, I do not convince, I declare, I do not invade. I send love. And where this word arrives, may good manifest, because it is a word born in God. And God never fails. Recite this prayer when you do not know how to help, when your hands cannot reach, when your actions are not enough, because the well-spoken word does reach. And when it reaches, it touches, heals, transforms. Amen.